Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Tuesday, April 2nd. Ian Cameron, presented by Boston Hemp Inc. Ian Cameron, Matt Robinson, back from the Bay Area. Like Dionne Warwick once sang way back in the day, do you know the way to San Jose? Matt Robinson clearly knows the way back from San Jose because he's made it home safe and sound, back to his palatial estate there in Reno, Nevada. Matt, let's start there before we get into the NHL stuff from last night and this big Tuesday card. How was the week that was in the Bay Area? A big-time win for your Dallas Stars in San Jose in a half-empty arena. Like I said, you could put your feet up and just have a relaxing, enjoyable time. And then you ended up staying out there for pretty much the rest of the week. So happy time away, I would assume.
Yeah, no, it was a great trip. Obviously, starting when the Stars win. All you can ask when you're at a road game is a win, but also, a bunch of goals. San Jose chipped in with a few as well. So I got to hear their goal horn a couple times, which, I felt like Dallas was in control, so I wasn't super worried about it. Another cool thing, they showed Joe Pavelski on the Jumbotron about 5 minutes in, and there were a good amount of Stars fans in the building, and everyone, Stars fans, Sharks fans, gave him kind of a standing ovation. I high-fived some Sharks fans. It was a very, friendly atmosphere. Again, San Jose is not fighting for a playoff spot, so their fans were just, happy to be there. But yeah, it was a good trip. And then we made it up to San Francisco for a night, had a good dinner out there, went to a local bar, met some locals there, and then went up to a family friend's North Bay on Thursday. And then Friday went up to Napa and went to one of the wineries up there, had a good lunch. So all in all, a great trip, nice reset. I feel like we were gone for the end of snow as it's now like 65 and blue sky here in Reno. So, I think it's spring, which also means playoff hockey. So excited about that. But yeah, it's good to be home, back to the work grind. Nice to have my desk and not be taking meetings from the car or from a hotel. So, yeah, all in all, a good week and excited for the card tonight.
Yeah, excited. And look, the countdown's on as far as the playoffs. I mean, we have 2 weeks left of NHL regular season hockey, and then that's it. And the playoffs are going to be here on Saturday, April 20th, which is confirmed to be the first day of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. We do have some exciting news to bring your way. First of all, regarding Alex, he is making his official return on Thursday. On the show. He will be back. That'll be his first day back on the show. Of course, he just got back to Minnesota yesterday. He's got to catch up with errands and appointments and stuff he's got to do, bank stuff. He's got to do his taxes, and that's time consuming. I know that all too well. I've had to fucking do that shit for years. So he's going to take a couple days away to do that, take care of some stuff now that he's back home, and he'll be back on Thursday with us on the show. So Alex B. Smith will rejoin us on Thursday. But we do want to make the announcement now. I was hoping to make it with Alex here, but we'll make it now because he's signed off on this as far as the live betcast schedule for the month of April. We've got a lot of great dates that we have lined up for these betcasts, and we are happy to make the announcement right now. And actually what I'm going to do in just a moment here is put the schedule up on the screen as well. We have not one, I feel like LeBron James right now about to announce this, not one, not two, not three, not four, but five Ice Guys live betcasts coming your way here in the month of April. We are very much excited about this. We know how much fun certainly Alex and I have, Matt has on these betcasts, and of course our viewers and listeners. And we are looking forward to these live betcasts. And there are the dates. There you see them on the screen. Not only all 5 betcast dates, but also the designation as opposed to whether they are free public betcasts, free for all, or the Patreon exclusive betcasts. So we've got 2 free-for-all betcasts here in April. Those will be next Tuesday, April the 9th, and the other one will be in the playoffs Monday, April the 22nd. So those are the two betcasts that are free and open to everybody to tune in and to join us on the stream. And the other three will be Patreon exclusive. So in order to be a part of those betcasts and to not only tune in and watch them, have the ability to watch them, but also have the ability to join us on the stream, you will have to be a Patreon member. Again, that's just $10 per month. And the three Patreon exclusive betcast dates here in the month of April: Tuesday, April 16th, which is the third last day of the regular season. So it's basically the final week of the regular season. It's the Tuesday that week. That is a Patreon exclusive betcast. And then we will be delivering two Patreon exclusive live betcasts during the Stanley Cup playoffs in the month of April. That's actually wrong. I got to correct that. Thursday, April the 25th is the first Patreon exclusive playoff betcast. Thursday, April 25th. And then it's Tuesday, April the 30th. Gosh, I did a poor job with this and getting all the days. And there we go. That's the correct. There we go.
Too many days.
This correct here. I swear I was not drinking last night. But by the way, yeah, three Patreon exclusive live betcasts. Tuesday, April 16, which is the final week of the regular season. Thursday, April 25, which again is a Stanley Cup playoff Patreon exclusive live betcast, as is Tuesday, April the 30th, which is once again another Patreon exclusive live betcast. So there you go. Tuesday, April 9th, free. Tuesday, April 16th, Patreon exclusive. Those two are in the regular season. Then we get into the playoffs. Monday, April 22nd, free betcast. Thursday, April 25th, Patreon exclusive betcast. And Tuesday, April 30th, Patreon exclusive betcast. 5 live betcasts in April. And I think we might be looking at 6, 7, maybe even 8 betcasts in May. Like, we are really going to ramp it up here in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and we're looking forward to it. So that's the schedule right there. And we agreed to Monday and Thursday betcasts for the first week of the playoffs for a very simple reason. Majority of these series, they're going to play every other day, right? So series that starts on Saturday is probably going to be Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that type of schedule every other day in the playoffs. And then you'll get the other series starting Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. Well, what we wanted to do is we wanted variety. Variety is the spice of life. If we go Monday, Thursday, the first week of the playoffs with the two betcasts, we're going to get different matchups each night. We're not going to get the same games and the same series for both of those betcasts in all likelihood. So that's why we ended up going with Monday and Thursday instead of Tuesday and Thursday that week. Because if we go Tuesday and Thursday, we're probably going to get stuck with the same games and the same series both nights. We want to give every series a little piece of the pie, if you will, a little exposure with the betcast. So that's why we ended up going with the Monday, April 22nd, Thursday, April 25th betcast setup for that week. So excited. I mean, wow, 5 live betcasts, 2 more in the regular season, 3 in the Stanley Cup playoffs in the month of April. There it is on the screen. 2 of them free, 3 Patreon exclusive. So looking forward to it. And I know you are as well, Matt. You've already told me you got the dates written down and you're excited as well.
Yeah, always look forward to the betcast. I feel like we've had some good luck, at least as of late. There were a couple there earlier in the season that I think we were all in the L column, but still had a good time. But definitely have had some big wins and, a lot of live betting. And as Alex always mentions, I feel like we're getting, better at system plays, waiting for this amount, not betting if it's this amount, things like that. So definitely looking forward to it. And obviously the playoffs will be electric. There'll be fewer games, more focal points, and each game will be so important. And I mean, playoff hockey is just the best. So as we talked about pregame, there's going to be a lot of good first round series this year, which isn't always the case. In the years where there's 2 or 3 contenders in each side, the first round's a little shorter and things like that. But I think there's, a handful of teams on both sides to where there's going to be first round matchups where teams that I feel could contend are going to be out. So, definitely looking forward to it.
We are too. I am too. Alex is as well. 5 betcasts here in April, 3 free, 2 free, 3 Patreon. Looking forward to it. 2 in the regular season, 3 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And there's probably going to be even more betcasts coming in the month of May. So excited about that. Last night, I'm just going to rip through quickly the recap. It was an up and down night. Some good, some bad for me betting wise. Columbus with one of the shockers, 4-1 against Colorado. You can call him Danil Brodeur last night because that's how he played in net the Blue Jackets. He was very good. He had over 40 saves, well over 40 saves, and just outstanding performance from him. He's playing better than Merzlikins right now, as far as I'm concerned for the Blue Jackets, but give them credit. Monster upset. You're going to see these. You're going to see some of these games where it's just it's not exactly going to be a cakewalk for the obvious side. And we saw that last night. Columbus with the 4-1 win. Same thing in New York. Pittsburgh Penguins 5-2 taking down the New York Rangers last night. 3-point effort from Sidney Crosby was very strong last night in that game. We'll see if the Pittsburgh's actually still mathematically alive, but it's still a very faint pulse. There's a lot of teams they got to jump over, but certainly a nice win. And finally, the Rangers had that flat spot. They finally had that game where they got tripped up. The schedule kind of caught up to them. It's been rigorous. It's been demanding. They played a lot of intense hockey. Boston, Florida, Philly home games, Colorado on the road, Arizona, a crazy up and down affair, 8-5. And finally, the Rangers, it all caught up to them last night. See right away, right from the getting scored on in the first minute. They didn't have their A game last night. Detroit, what a victory for the Detroit Red Wings last night. 4-2 in Tampa against the Lightning. This was one of the positives for me. We took a shot with Detroit plus price as an underdog. Unfortunately, the first period over did not get home for any of us. We all like that. And unfortunately, that first period scoreless. But 4-2 Detroit. Alex Lyon, one of his best performances of the season. And certainly he continues to play a lot better since Newsy Lalonde finally decided we're going to sit you down. We're going to give you a rest. We're going to give you a little break. And since they did that with Lyon, he's been better, and he's gotten his game back in order quite a bit. So a solid win for Detroit, 4-2 over Tampa Bay. A huge 2 points to keep them just right there as far as the wild card race is concerned. The New York Islanders, 4-3 against the Philadelphia Flyers in overtime last night. Everybody, I'm sure by now, has seen the John Tortorella press conference after that game. Not amused, calling it an embarrassment to the Philadelphia Flyers uniform. The second period performance, only the goalie showed up. Certain players on this team don't have a clue how to play at this time of year in these situations. So not a very happy John Tortorella, and said, stop talking this shit about rest. It doesn't matter. If you don't have balls to play in games like this, rest doesn't do you any good. That's exactly pretty much the main highlights I just recited there from his presser last night. And, you could tell he's been pissed for a while, but he's tried to be calmer, gentler torts, keep it inside, just keep it all stashed deep down in the recesses of his soul. But finally, you know what? Especially that second period, and that second period was a debacle. The Flyers barely had the puck throughout that second period. They're very fortunate that they weren't down by more than a goal. And speaking of balls, which Tortorella said our team, needs more balls in these type of games. He showed some balls to yank Ersson from the game. And look, Ersson didn't play great to start that game. I don't hate that move, but the concern I had with that move was you put in this Russian kid, first time in an NHL game, Ivan Fedotov last night, and you put him in that situation in a pressure cooker like that against a team that's trying to catch you in the standings, and you've got to come in and try to play strong in net for a team that's not playing their best. And Tort said it. I put him in a brutal spot, a tough situation, and he ended up, Fedotov played well. I mean, that thing is a lot worse than 3-2 Islanders going into the third period, if not for Fedotov's play in net. He was very good. He's a huge goalie. He covers up much of the net. He looked calm. He looked poised. And then his ability to keep the Flyers in the game allowed them to tie it late. And then, of course, Morgan Frost giveth, Morgan Frost taketh away. He ties the game. He gives the puck away in overtime, and it leads to the Islanders' overtime goal. But at least they got a point out of a game where at least for the first two periods, the Flyers didn't play well. So they'll take that, but still, Flyers look like they're hanging on for dear life right now as far as this playoff spot is concerned. The rest of the game, 6-4 Toronto. I can't say enough how impressed I was with them. And I know the pessimism in the Leaf fan base is going to focus and dwell on, well, you were up 5-1 and you let it get to 5-4 and you had to hang on. Well, first of all, you're playing a great team. And second of all, you still won the game. And for over 40 minutes, you were clearly superior. I think you got to look at that as way more positive than negative. Stop looking at the negative side of things. It's like what Matt said all those months about Dallas barely beating San Jose in overtime. Yeah, okay, but did you win the game? Yes, you won the game. Toronto won the game. And for the majority of the game, they played better, a lot better than Florida. I think that's what you have to focus on, not so much the fact that it was 5-1 and it turned 5-4 in the third. The Leafs closed it out. That's all that matters. And I thought it was a great performance by them, especially, like I said, in the first two periods. It made Florida look silly. I mean, defensive breakdowns for the Panthers. How the hell is nobody looking at Matthews or checking Matthews at the side of the net? On the one goal they scored last night. He's only Austin Matthews. He's only scored fucking 60 goals this year. You may want to pay attention if you're the Florida Panthers. But nevertheless, good win for Toronto there, 6-4. St. Louis, just what we talked about. John Massey and I and Mikey, we talked about this. Just when everybody's ready to throw St. Louis in the dumpster for losing at home to San Jose and getting shut out, what happens? They beat Edmonton at home last night in overtime, 3-2. So we kind of all leaned to St. Louis, that they weren't totally dead just yet. This game hurt me because all of these looks that I had with the trifecta, none of them cashed. The first period over, the both teams to score. This is the one that hurt me the most last night. The overs in this game falling short. But 3-2 St. Louis getting the job done there in overtime. And they're still right in it because the LA Kings lost to Winnipeg 4-3 last night. I recommended the over. 5.5 with the Kings and the Jets last night. And why did I like it? I said Philip Deneau is such a good defensive forward. And that's now 2 games that he's missed, Matt, for LA against Calgary and Winnipeg. And they've been running around. The penalty kill has sucked. Let's be real. The penalty kill has sucked in these 2 games for LA without Philip Deneau. Philip Deneau is an elite defensive presence in the forward group for the LA Kings. And without him, they're not as good a defensive team. You can clearly see it now, 2 games in a row. Giving up the 4 spot to Calgary, the 4 spot to a Winnipeg team who has been struggling offensively going into that game last night. So I think the overs, you keep betting them as long as Deneau is out. If Deneau remains missing for the Kings moving forward, I still think you can look over the total in their games because I just think they miss him so much at the defensive end. You're talking about a guy that I think could be nominated for a Selke, quite honestly. Every single year with how good he is away from the puck. And clearly without him, the last 2 games, they've suffered from it. So credit to Winnipeg, though, 4-3 win. They get off the schneid and snap the losing streak. They needed that win badly. They got it. And last but not least, the only thing I was concerned about was when I hit over 5.5 here, and it shouldn't have been as difficult as it was because it was 3-1 Seattle after the first period. But we do get the empty netter with seconds left. Can you believe it? It was 3-1 after the first. I'm on over 5.5, and I got to sweat it out and hope for an empty netter, which I finally got with like 10 seconds left to cash that over. But it got there in Seattle's 4-2 win. Vince Dunn being back in the lineup matters a ton for Seattle offensively. You can tell they're just so much better getting the rush started with Dunn back in the lineup. And shout out to Shane Wright. Called up from the AHL. He's had a rough start to his career. People expecting big things of him, and he's played more in the AHL than in the NHL so far in his career. But he gets called up back with the Kraken in his first game back since the recall last night, and he scores a goal. And it was a nice one. And he had a pretty good game for Seattle. So way to go, Shane Wright, because I know he's taken a lot of criticism, a lot of flack for his slow development, but good game from him last night in his return to the NHL. So, Matt, with all that said, thoughts from last night?
Yeah, it was a pretty light night for me, betting and viewership wise. I know I saw you mention it on Twitter, but I never thought that I would be focused on women's March Madness over the NHL in April. As the hockey fan I am, nothing against women's college basketball.
Only on the women's, but I did have the women's on one of my screens. I did. And it was a good night for women's college basketball. The 2 games were very good.
Yeah, and that wasn't a comment at women's college basketball. obviously just we're getting into the playoff time of year, and usually hockey's high priority. But yeah, two great games. I watched every second of that Iowa LSU game. A lot of back and forth. I mean, shots were being made by Caitlin Clark from the logo. It seemed like it's wild to watch.
Yeah, don't
So
put her point
pretty
total
light
on.
night for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
do it.
But yeah, I did first big loss of the night. I had Detroit, Tampa, first period over. I was able to jump in live at over 5 though to kind of counterbalance that. So it was kind of a wash on that one. I mentioned it in our group chat, but my big win of the night was I was on Columbus team total over 2.5, which hit very easily, and the Columbus Blue Jackets money line, which was a nice plus price for me. So was excited about that. Again, it was more of a hoping the Avs lose type of play, but just sprinkled a little on the money line. It wasn't a big play or anything there. Missed a lot of that middle action. I caught a little bit of the Toronto Florida game once I saw it was pretty high scoring. I threw it on for a little bit. Obviously, two great teams playing good hockey right now, so that's always exciting to watch. I did have LA Kings money line again, sort of just a Central Division rivalry type play, but I thought it was a decent spot. They were up 3-2 in the second, and then to see that kind of collapse was a bit of a bummer. And then big miss of the night. I didn't get in my bed in time for the Seattle San Jose game, so I was chasing. I got in at 6.5. I went to bed, with 15 minutes left in the second of a 3-2 game. I was like, yeah, my 6.5 will have no problem hitting. Woke up this morning to see just that final, the goal that pushed it over for you with 8 seconds left. Can't believe that there was 35 minutes of action in that game with no goals. Two teams that are clearly out of it. I figured, it'd be point night for both parties. So that was a little bit of a bummer, but yeah, overall, pretty even night. I think I'm up a little bit just because of that Columbus money line win, but yeah, looking forward to tonight. I think there's a couple games that'll definitely be passes for me, just given where teams are at in the standings, but definitely some good stuff. So looking forward to it.
All right, let's hit it. Here we go. Tuesday night, Florida Panthers, Montreal Canadiens. We've got Florida minus 230 road favorites. 6 the total here in this game. Now, Florida back-to-back, a game that they'd rather forget last night against the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's about as bad as a team will make Florida look, especially in the first two periods. I mean, that was Toronto just out. Believe it or not, I'm going to use the term, and I can't even believe it. Toronto, at least for last night, we still have to see if they match up in the playoffs, if they're going to be able to do the same. But for last night, Toronto outclassed Florida. They looked faster than Florida. They won all the puck battles last night in that game against Florida. They were harder on loose pucks than Florida. They took advantage of their chances more than Florida. Their goaltender was better than Florida's. Samsonov outplayed Bobrovsky. I mean, that was just Toronto giving Florida an old-fashioned beatdown, especially in the first two periods. Now, Toronto kind of took their foot off the gas, and credit to Florida. They do have hearts of warriors. They don't quit on a game, and they were able to get it from 5-1 to 5-4. But nevertheless, for over two periods, that was Toronto in control. So Paul Maurice and Florida aren't not happy and thrilled with that effort. You would expect them to have a solid bounce-back effort here against Montreal, but Montreal, as we've talked about since Marty St. Louis been back, they've 2-1 and they're 3-1 overall in their last 4 games. They had a good win against Colorado. They beat a Flyers team at home 4-1 that needed points desperately. They did lose their last game, albeit to a very strong, defensively dominant Carolina team, 3-0. We'll see if Montreal can bounce back from that Carolina loss here tonight in this game. Just going back and looking to see how Florida's done this year on the back-to-back, just to give you an idea, because we do have a couple of teams in that spot. I'm looking at it right now, adding it up, and we've got Florida at, I'm just doing the math here right now with this. Here we go. They haven't had as many back-to-backs. I'm adding it up right now. Wow, 3-1. I've got them at 3-1 in 4 games on a back-to-back this year, the Florida Panthers. That's not bad. at all. And they haven't had as many back-to-backs for some reason as other teams. In fact, not even close. There's some teams that have had 8 or 9 back-to-back games this year. The Florida Panthers here, they've only had 4. It looks like 3-1 is what I've got them at on a back-to-back this season. So I'm going to sprinkle on Florida puck line first period here because I think that's the best approach. I don't want to deal with the back-to-back on the road legs of the third period, which often kick in and often harm a team. That's where we see sometimes the worst of the performance from a team on a back-to-back is that third period. Plus, of course, there's more value with the first period puck line than, say, Florida in regulation or Florida full game puck line. So I think you're going to get a good, strong start out of the gate from Florida tonight, coming off that debacle last night because they didn't start the game well. The focus should be starting it better. Not to mention, like I said, on a back-to-back, I trust the team early in the game a little bit more than I trust them later in the game. And Matt's played. He knows if you play a back-to-back, your legs are more likely to go out in the third period. You're going to have that energy. You're going to have that adrenaline. You're still going to have that push in your system physically early in the game. When you're playing on the second night of back-to-back games. So that's what I'm going to look at here, just that Florida first period puck line. You'll be able to get pretty decent price on that. I'm seeing -0.5, plus 135 for Florida first period puck line. I think that's a good situational look going into this game here tonight against the Montreal Canadiens. What do you think here in this one, Matt, Florida-Montreal?
Yeah, so I feel like Florida's going to come out hard. I don't hate the puck line. I'm not on it currently, but I might jump on that. But this is an over by Fecta. I did get in at over 5.5 on this one, so I'm on the first period over, the over total at 5.5, and then I'm gonna jump on Florida team total over 3.5. They did score 4 last night. They obviously lost. They want to come out hard. I could see this being a 2-0 Florida game. Then Montreal kind of creeps back in. Maybe you get a 4-2 with an empty net type of game. I think they know they need to win this game. After coming off the loss, I think that's motivating for them. But I do think Montreal sticks around. So I like the over at 5.5, the first period over, because I think Florida comes out hot. And then I'm just going to jump on their team total. I think, they should score 4 goals in Montreal. No problem.
You know what? And the history, Matt, it really supports your case right there when it comes to Florida scoring 4 goals. Because if you actually look, they've beaten Montreal 7 straight times. And in all 7 games, they've scored at least 4 goals. And the 3 games in Montreal, they've scored 6, 5, and 5. Their last 3 trips to the Bell Center in Montreal. So, yeah, that team total definitely. I see now when I look at the series history, they've easily scored 4 more against this Montreal Canadiens team. We'll see if that can continue. But and again, the last 3 visits to Montreal, Florida has scored 5 or more in those last 3 games in Montreal between these 2 teams. So Matt's liking the over by Fecta and the Florida team total over here with this Panthers and Canadiens game. I might add the team total. I do like the Florida puck line, though. I think they get out to the lead here in the first 20 minutes tonight in this game. As far as props go, I can't say it was a very good night for a lot of the big guns of Florida. So this could be a night where you want to look at a Verhaeghe and a Barkov and a Tkachuk to really, step up because they didn't play that great last night. Reinhart did score, but he scores even when they play bad. Reinhart still manages to score. That's been the kind of season he's had for the Panthers. For Montreal, Slafkovsky and Newhook, I've really talked about both of them quite a bit. Those have been the 2 guys that have been tripping in and contributing the most offensively lately for Montreal. All right, here's a big game: Washington and Buffalo. We've got the Sabres -130, home favorites, 6 the total here in this game. I guess for the Buffalo Sabres, you've got to look at this as, do I believe they're making the playoffs? No, but lose this game and you might as well start making reservations on the golf course, in April and beyond, because this, is absolutely a must here for the Buffalo Sabres, given their spot in the standings. Like I said, they're not mathematically out yet, but this is the team holding down Washington, that is. This is the team holding down the second wild card spot, 82 points. And here's Buffalo that actually has played 2 games more than Washington. So not only is Washington 7 points ahead of Buffalo, but Washington has 2 games in hand on Buffalo still as well. Like Buffalo's only got 7 games left this season. So this is a must for the Buffalo Sabres to not only win this game, but they'd probably have to win it in regulation, quite honestly. I don't even think you can give Washington a point here, which is why I'm fascinated where if this game's like tied late in the third, are we going to see kind of a John Hines move from Don Granato here tonight for Buffalo and maybe pull the goalie with 2 minutes left in the third if the game is tied? Because I don't think you can afford Washington even getting a point from this game tonight if you're the Buffalo Sabres. But so they'll probably talk themselves, Buffalo, into, you know what, we got to win this if we're going to have any chance. Even if they do win, and even if they do win in regulation, I think it's still an uphill battle. They will only be 5 points back if they win in regulation. But again, Washington still has 2 games in hand. Now, Washington's got to do something with those 2 games in hand, but it's still a very, very tough task for the Buffalo Sabres to try to pull this off. There's no question about that. But there is zero pulling this off if they lose tonight to the Washington Capitals. So it has to start there. I can't lay minus 130 with Buffalo. This feels like the last stand for them, and I would expect a strong effort, but I don't know. To me, at the moment, they're not exactly reliable. They've been kind of up and down. They had that nice little stretch to get them back into it, and they've kind of gone back the last 8 games, up and down play, 3-5 their last 8 games. Now, Washington's off back-to-back losses here against Toronto and Boston, though, so very tough competition. 5-1 loss to the Leafs, 3-2 shootout loss to the Boston Bruins. We'll see how they fare here in this game. It's been a weird series where Washington's actually 5-2 the last 7 meetings. And Washington's done pretty well, though, in Buffalo. 2 of the last 3 here in Buffalo they've won. They've won the only previous regular season meeting this year in overtime, 4-3. So I should be on the draw here, but I'm not, and I'll tell you why. Because 5 of the last 6 meetings have gone to overtime or a shootout. I absolutely should be on the draw here in this game, but I am concerned big time that if this game is 2-2 going into the final couple minutes of the third period, or 3-3 going into the final couple minutes of the third period, that Buffalo will pull the goalie to try to get the win in regulation so that Washington gets 0 out of this game, which they should do, in my opinion. That should be something they do, is pull the goalie, Luukkonen, take him out in the final 2 minutes if this game is tied. It does you no good with any chances of catching Washington if you're going to let this team get a point. So that's what's going to keep me off the draw, because I could see if I'm Don Granato, that's what I'm doing. And if this game's tied late, that's exactly what I'm going to do, because you can't have this be a 3-point game. You're 7 points back of Washington coming into tonight, and they've still got 2 games in hand on you. You've got to try to win this game in regulation. So we'll see how this one goes. I think this is an over bifecta that I'm interested in with the Capitals and the Sabres tonight. Over 1.5 first period, over 6. I do like that a little bit. You look at head-to-head, we've seen 5 straight overs between these 2 teams. Go back even further, Matt, 8-1 to the over in the last 9 meetings with the Capitals and Sabres. The last 5, it's been 4-3, 5-4, 7-4, 5-4, 4-3. So we've seen them all clear the over. So I am concerned it's a tight game because of what's at stake, but to Terry Ray Vegas' point in the chat, everything's pointing to the over. The history, the first period over trends, the full game over trends. So that's what I'm going to look at here, is a first period over, full game over. I'm leaning hard to Washington here, even though Buffalo needs the game. I can't lay the price with Buffalo. For me, it would be the Capitals plus 110. And I might get in for a small bet on the side here. Small because Buffalo, this is the last stand. They got to have it. Got to have it doesn't mean you win. Washington is the only side I would consider plus 110. What do you think here in this one, Matt? Capitals, Sabres.
Yeah, ahead of the show, this is another one I got in at over 5.5, which, given what you just broke down on series history, makes me even more excited. So I definitely am on that already, but I think I will. I'm seeing over first period over at like minus 120, minus 125. So I think that's a pretty good price given series history. And just given the fact that Washington's on a 2-game skid, they want to get back in the win column, and Buffalo needs it so desperately. it may slow down later in the game, but I do think both teams come out. I'm not going to take both teams to score just in case, Washington comes out flat or Buffalo comes out flat and it's a 2-0 first. But I wouldn't be surprised at a 1-1, 2-1 type first period. So I'm going to jump on that first period as well with you.
Yeah, I mean, for props, there are some good, I think there should be some goals tonight with these two teams. It's Luukkonen and Lindgren, by the way, confirmed in net for this Capitals Sabres game. But there's some decent options here as far as the prop market is concerned. Certainly for Buffalo, you're right. Tage Thompson, it took him a while. He has not had a season that he had hoped, but right now he is feeling it for Buffalo. Him and Peterka. And Tuck to get an assist, that whole line, Tuck to get an assist, Thompson to get a goal or over 1.5 points, and Peterka to score a goal. Those props have been really good lately for the Buffalo Sabres, and I've been betting those quite a bit. I would look maybe in that direction again. It looks like Zach Benson and Quinn on the second line with Cousins. They haven't exactly been producing since they've been up there, but you are still getting value as far as I'm concerned with them right now up there. And then for Washington, Strom's been red hot. Milano's been in good form. Miroshnichenko, the young Russian, is going to move up to the second line here tonight for the Capitals. Alexei Protas is up to the top line for Washington tonight with Connor McMichael, who's been very good for Washington lately, as well as Ovechkin. So I think definitely you look at the situation involving that. Protas has some value. McMichael's been probably one of the better producing Capital forwards the last several games. So those are two options as well. Yeah, no Greenway tonight, Percy. So that's why you're seeing a Benson, Quinn, and Cousins second line tonight for the Buffalo Sabres. So some good prop options, though, in this game, no question. All right, Pittsburgh, New Jersey. Devils minus 160, home favorite, 6.5 the total here with this matchup. Back-to-back for the Penguins. Credit to them. Nice win last night against the New York Rangers at MSG. We'll see if they're able to keep it rolling here tonight as they take on the New Jersey Devils, who are a very, very tough team to figure out. That goes.
Either I'm lost or we lost Ian. I'm guessing we lost Ian. He's probably trying to reset here. But there he is.
We're back. Yeah, sorry about that. So that's once in a while that does happen. It's usually too many windows are open, and the old laptop says, "Up, I'm overworked." I've been overworked for 8 fucking months here doing this job. The laptop though gets a little overworked because there's too many windows open and it crashes on me. That's exactly what that is when you see that happen. And yeah, I've been overworked for 8 months, and you don't see me shutting down. Come on, laptop, figure it out. Figure it out. Anyway, back we go. Yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh on a back-to-back here after the game against the Rangers. I'll say this. How many times have we actually counted the Penguins dead and buried in this playoff race? They're actually still mathematically alive, crazy as it is to say, and they still have games in hand on everybody that they're chasing. But can they do something with them is the question. They're now only 5 points back of Washington here in the playoff mix at this point in time. Now Washington does have a game in hand, but they are still there, believe it or not, as far as the playoffs. So this game actually does matter to Pittsburgh. It certainly matters to New Jersey because they have 76 points, and they have played 74 games. So even in games played and games remaining, but the Penguins are 1 point ahead of New Jersey. So this kind of feels like loser is really up against it as far as making the playoffs is concerned. Devils are the better team. That you would think they are. But they're too erratic for me. I'm not laying $1.60 with them. I'm not on Pittsburgh either. I want nothing to do with a side in this game. We've seen 7 straight Devil victories, by the way, head to head over the Pittsburgh Penguins. We'll see if that continues here tonight. I'm just looking up to see what Pittsburgh's back-to-back record is on the season right now. I'm looking at it right now, just adding that up. 2-0, 3. I'm actually looking at 3-0, 4-0. Not bad here for Pittsburgh on a back-to-back. 5-0. Wow. 5-1. They finally lost one on a back-to-back. 6-1. Wow. I'm seeing them at 6-1 on a back-to-back this year, the Penguins. That's a pretty damn good back-to-back record, believe it or not, for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I don't know. I'd lean draw, if anything. But again, draw doesn't do any of these teams any good because they're fighting for the playoffs. They don't want the other team to get anything. So that's the thing where I pump the brakes on the draw this time of year with some of these games where it's two teams in the same battle for the same thing, which is that second wild card. You don't want as many overtime games and draws when you see that. So we'll see how this goes. But this is one where I know the over bifecta did not cash last night with Pittsburgh, New Jersey, but I'm kind of leaning that way here. I'm at least leaning to the full game over because we've seen each of the two meetings this year go over the total, over 6.5, 5-2 for New Jersey and Pittsburgh, and then 5-2 again for New Jersey at home against Pittsburgh, and both games went over. Don't know if I'm going to add on the bifecta and the trifecta here, but I at least like the over 6.5. Keep in mind with these Pittsburgh games, they've started slow. John Massey said it yesterday. You know, the first period has been low scoring lately in these Pittsburgh games, and then we've started to see the goals flow, second period and third period. So I feel like it's better off just sticking with the full game over 6.5 here for me with Penguins and Devils. What do you think here in this one, Matt? Pittsburgh, New Jersey.
Yeah, this was going to be a pass for me, but I did just talk myself into a team total over for Pittsburgh. It's over 2.5. You do have to lay a little juice. It's like minus 140, minus 145, somewhere in that
That's
range.
Not terrible.
Yeah, but I mean, I think I like them to get at least 3 in this game. So whether they win or lose, you know, again, I don't really like the sides. I'm not going to lay minus 160 on New Jersey, even though they have the rest and are at home. They're too erratic. And I think I didn't see if he's confirmed, but Jake Allen's expected, which also, you know, gives me a good feeling that Pittsburgh can pocket 3. So that'll be my only play in this one.
Yeah, keep an eye on Jari. You know, they had to start Nedeljkovic last night. Late absence was Jari with an illness, and now it's the back-to-back. Is he going to be well enough to play? We don't know just yet as far as that status is concerned for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So, you know, they might have to, well, they'll either have to call someone up from Wilkes-Barre Scranton, or you know, you're going to have to go with Nedeljkovic here on a back-to-back. So we'll have to wait and see on that. I still would look over 6.5. That's what I like the most. Remember, it was an emergency backup goalie that was in attendance last night for the Penguins at Madison Square Garden for that game against the Rangers. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fare here tonight. Tristan Jarry, again, was under the weather late last night, so Nedeljkovic had to make his 5th straight start. So you've either got to go with someone you call up, an emergency backup, or Nedeljkovic on a back-to-back if Tristan Jarry is not feeling better and able to play tonight. But either way, I like over 6.5 would be the look. Yeah, someone made a good point. Luke Hughes, by the way, has been getting some points lately, and you can get a hell of a plus price on over 1.5 points on Luke Hughes. So definitely, I think that might be a decent look as far as props go. Also for New Jersey, Alexander Holtz, I keep saying it, as long as he stays on the second line, think there's decent value. Timo Meier, man, he's I keep saying how well he's playing. He's got points now in the majority of recent games. He's got 3 goals in the last 5 games. So goal prop, yeah, and assist prop, and point prop, and even a shot at over 1.5 points. You could look in that direction as well with that. But I think you could do Luke Hughes, Timo Meier, Sidney Crosby. You got to put in a point parlay because that he gets at least a point every game, it seems like lately. And I've been talking about Crosby over 1.5 points for a long time. He easily hit that again last night against the Rangers, where this team would be without number 87. You know, it's amazing to think. It's shuddering. You shudder if you're a Penguins fan to think where you would be without Sidney Crosby this year. You'd be even worse than where you're at right now, much worse. But yeah, Sidney Crosby is well over 1.5 points. That's been a good look lately for the Penguins as well. So some decent options there as far as props go. There, Drew O'Connor's got value because he's moved up to the top line. Michael Bunting second line, and Brian Rust as well, starting to heat up the last few games for the Pittsburgh Penguins. All right, next up, Chicago Blackhawks, New York Islanders. We've got the The Islanders -250, home favorites, 5.5 being the total here in this game. Actually, this total is 5.5 at some books, 6 at others. So make sure you shop around. We're seeing a split total here with the Blackhawks and the Islanders. This is an over I like here, over 5.5 here with the Blackhawks and the Islanders. Chicago, don't look now. The offense is finally humming at least a little bit, the last few games. And certainly we saw what they did against Philadelphia Saturday night, put a 5 spot on the board against the Flyers, a 5-1 victory. They did get blanked by Ottawa, but they did generate a lot of chances. Puck didn't go in, but, we have seen them score 3 or more goals now, 3 of their last 4 games, and they've won 3 of their last 4 games as well going into this matchup. Meanwhile, you've got the Islanders, a 4-3 overtime win against the Philadelphia Flyers last night. They played 2 very good periods. Philly did make a push in the third period. Morgan Frost ties that game and then ended up winning in overtime. But yes, indeed, we've got the Islanders on a back-to-back. And you know what this team has done on back-to-backs this year. We all do. This is the one team we all know off the top of our head. We don't have to look it up. We all know how they have performed on the second night of back-to-backs this year. They have not won a hockey game this season, the New York Islanders, on the second night of back-to-back games. 0-10 is indeed the record. 0-10 for the New York Islanders on the second night of back-to-backs. I'm taking a shot here, guys. Give me the Chicago Blackhawks plus 210. Give me that Chicago underdog side here in this game. I'm taking my shot here. They've won 3 of 4. They spoiled the Flyers, playoff hopes at least a little bit, taking 2 points in Philadelphia. They're starting to score goals a little bit. We know the Islanders are a win one, lose one kind of hockey team right now. And they're sure as hell not going to, lay -250. With the Islanders. And the last time I bet them on a back-to-back was that game against New Jersey. They got shut out at home. Give me the Chicago Blackhawks. Must win doesn't equal will win. I've said that across multiple sports on multiple shows that I have been a part of for years here in the sports betting space, that because you need to win doesn't mean you're going to win. And usually when you're in a must-win situation, you're in a must-win situation because you're a mediocre, inconsistent fucking hockey team. And that's exactly what the New York Islanders are right now. So, this is one goal, Jew. I'm not going to be upset if the Islanders win and I lose betting on Chicago. I'm not going to be upset because of the price it is, plus 210. I'm not going to be upset in the slightest. I know that the Islanders are still the better team and lots to play for, but they have not won a game on a back-to-back this year. Chicago is showing me something. They've won 3 of 4. They haven't folded the tent. Luke Richardson will not allow them to fold in the tent because of the way that guy played the game and the way he coaches. He's not going to let them go through the motions. And remember what the Hawks did to, yes, Isaac. That's one of the best points you've made, right, in all the months and years you've been in our chat on a daily basis. Remember the last time the Hawks eliminated a team last year against Pittsburgh? You remember what they did? Penguins needed the win, like a human being needs oxygen to breathe. Remember that in Pittsburgh? And they effectively ended the Penguins' playoff hopes in that game. So I'm basically getting a plus 210 price to bet against a team that is 0-10 on the second night of back-to-back games. I'm not passing that up. If it loses, so be it. I'm on Chicago here, plus 210 and over 5.5. Matt, what do you think here? Blackhawks, Islanders.
Yeah, so this is another game I got in over 5.5, more of a system play than anything, but I do like it here. And yeah, when I was looking at the breakdown pre-show, I didn't really put 2 and 2 together that the Islanders are on a back-to-back. So I'm going to lay a little bit on the Blackhawks as well. So I'll tell you on both of those on this game. I think the Blackhawks love playing this time of year when they are eliminated. Like they still get up for games. You see some teams like Seattle laid down for a lot of games once they kind of felt they were out of it. But I feel like Chicago's like, yeah, all right, we're out, but let's ruin other team seasons. So this is a perfect time for them to kind of put the Islanders in a really tough spot. So I like the Blackhawks here. I may even look and just like do a tiny sprint, just a couple bucks on Blackhawks regulation, just to get some serious juice. But
wow.
yeah, I think the Blackhawks can win this game.
Yeah, I mean, just we at some point you got to put your foot down and say, you know what, I've seen enough of this team all season that they're asked on a back-to-back that the prospect of getting a plus 210 to go against a team in this spot where they've been repeatedly pathetic all year is appealing, even if it is the Chicago Blackhawks. And look, it's not like we're betting on Chicago in a time where they've lost 9 in a row. We're getting the Chicago Blackhawks on a bit of an uptick here, 3-1 in their last 4 games for this team coming into tonight. Bedard, that's a good point, Russell, about Bedard being tired. But just in the short term, at least they haven't played since Saturday, that game against Philadelphia. So they've had, a couple of days off here. And like I said, we've clearly seen that Chicago is content playing spoiler right now and capable of it with the way they played against Philadelphia the other night. Yeah, as far as props in this game, you're right. Dickinson, as they say on Letterkenny, Jason Dickskin. Yeah, he's been very good lately for the Chicago Blackhawks, no question. Kurashev, he's the one that's really feeling it. He's the one that's worth a look. Over 1.5 points even on Kurashev, you could go. But 5 goals, 9 assists, 14 points in the last 10 games for Philip Kurashev for the Chicago Blackhawks. He's played very well for this group. Like I said, for the Islanders, if you're going to look at anyone as far as props go, Palmieri, Horvat, Nelson, those are the guys you rely on. They're not getting a lot of consistent contributions from players outside of that trio right now. So that's what I would look at for props here with this one. All right, next up, Boston Bruins, Nashville Predators. Good East-West matchup here tonight on the slate. We've got Boston, slight road favorites here, around minus 115 in Music City. The total in this game's currently 6, although this has dropped to 5.5 in a lot of spots as well. So shop around. Again, whichever total you want. If you like the under, get a 6. If you like the over, get 5.5. It's very simple. So definitely you want to look in those directions. I like Nashville here. I do. Minus 105. Back home, they got kind of an avalanche against them versus the Colorado Avalanche the other night. Kind of a bounce back spot for them. Boston on the road, still a little up and down from what I've seen from them lately. They did get a win against Washington, although it was not easy for the Boston Bruins in that game, 3-2 in Washington. Keep in mind, they've had a 5-game road trip, and they got one more after this at Carolina. And then, actually, you know what their next 3 games are? That's why this is a little bit of a dubious spot for me for Boston. You play Nashville tonight. You play at Carolina on Thursday night. You play home to Florida. It is a mammoth game for first in the Atlantic Division on ABC, national television, Matt, Saturday afternoon. Bruins and Panthers. How good is that going to be? Saturday afternoon, an ABC game. Boston and Florida, first in the division on the line. And then after that, they play Carolina again at home. So they've got Carolina Thursday on the road, Tuesday next week at home, and in between they've got the showdown with Florida. Those are huge games coming up around the corner, and they got to get through Nashville first. So I'm not saying they're looking ahead, but I am concerned about that for Boston coming into this game tonight. And again, I think it's a tough game, but I think when you see Nashville, the way they've played, especially at home during this run, and I know now that's 2 games in a row where they've slid. Maybe they're going to slide a little bit further now that they've lost 2 in a row after the point streak got snapped. Maybe it's going to be a little slide for Nashville. That's certainly not without the possibility. It certainly could happen. But I like how this sets up for them back home after the 2 losses in the desert against Arizona and then at Colorado. Keep in mind, they were up 3-1 against Colorado. It's not like they played awful for the entire game. And then basically the roof kind of caved in right after that. So Nashville minus 105. I'm going to look that direction. 5.5, I lean over. I don't love this total, but at 5.5, I do lean over. What do you think here, Matt? Boston, Nashville. Oh, you're muted.
Damn it. Yeah, I was going to
show.
say that's the only play I had pre-show is over 5.5. I would think Nashville makes a push here, but just against the Bruins team, I don't want to. Not going to take that. So, yeah, just on the over for this one, not first period over because I think it could start out a little defensive, but hopefully we get to that 6 total.
Yeah, 5.5. I could only look, especially Nashville. Nashville's turned into a pretty decent over team. Well, not actually, believe it or not, they've still gone under more than over. But lately, it feels like the majority of their 32 overs have happened lately for Nashville, where they've been scoring a bunch, but they've also been giving up more goals. And I'm actually a little worried about Saros. As far as he's played a lot of intense hockey to get the team in this point where they're comfortably in the playoffs. Linus Ullmark for Boston. We'll see how he fares. Ullmark, all season, he's probably been better than Swayman. But I will say this here, a couple of these recent games we've seen from him, not nearly as sharp. Not like he's been terrible, but like I said, not nearly as sharp necessarily for the Bruins. But a lot of props I do like. I mean, for Nashville, I keep saying it over and over again, but it's hard not to with Philip Forsberg. Jason Zucker heating up a little bit. And he's up on the second line with Sissons and our guy, Cody Glass repair, Cody Glass replace. They got Jason Zucker playing with him. So Jason Zucker might have a little value. And their third line has given them a lot. Jankowski, Novak, and Evangelista for Nashville as well. You could maybe take a shot in that direction as well. And then for Boston, not going to really overcomplicate it. Zaka's been good with the points again of late. Danton Heinen's got value on the second line as well. For the Boston Bruins. Maybe a little Morgan Geekie as well on the third line center spot for Boston. So liking a couple of props here. And yes, Yossi's been very good here for the Nashville Predators, no question. You'd never a bad idea maybe to look for, he can always hit 2-point nights routinely. So we'll see if tonight's one of those nights. And again, we have an Ullmark versus Saros, a goaltending matchup here tonight in this game. All right, next up, it's the Ottawa Senators taking on the Minnesota Wild. We've got Minnesota minus 140 home favorites in this game, and the total 6 shaded to the over. Senators and Wild. I'm coming right back to them, man. I want me some Ottawa Senators right now. They are in a zone. They are in a groove. They are absolutely feeling it right now. And this is what the Ottawa Senators do. When the pressure's off and the season is over, the season is over as far as getting to the playoffs are concerned. Season begins for the Ottawa Senators as far as playing with intensity and playing as a team and playing well. And we've seen it now multiple years in a row from this Ottawa team. And for Nashville, it's not happening at the playoffs for them. I think that Vegas loss, I don't want to say it's going to be catastrophic and they are incapable of responding here, Minnesota, but that was a fucking kick in the nuts. Like, you have Vegas tied. You have maybe a chance for the shootout. Hines decides I'm going to do the pull the goalie thing, and it backfires. And because Vegas got the empty net goal in overtime to win it, they lose out on the point that they initially got for the game going past regulation. So that's part of the rule in the NHL that everyone wasn't aware of till that Nashville-Minnesota game took place. That, Minnesota loses the point that they had because of the pulling the goalie and having a Vegas score into the empty net in overtime. So not good, not what you want to see from this from this Minnesota Wild team. Marc-Andre Fleury confirmed in net. Jonas Korpisalo for Ottawa, who hasn't had a good year, but he's been a little bit better some of these recent wins that Ottawa's had. Thomas Chabot is out for Ottawa, but but everyone else is pretty much good to go. Norris, of course, has been out for a while. No Marcus Foligno, no Ryan Hartman tonight as well for the Minnesota Wild. Of course, a 3-game suspension given out to Ryan Hartman for his actions against Vegas on Saturday. So no Ryan Hartman. And look, he's been one of the heartbeats of energy lately for Minnesota. And he's actually been, I think, offensively, been a pretty good, reliable player the last few weeks for the Minnesota Wild. So he will be missed. And like I said, this Ottawa team, it's just absolutely remarkable what they are able to do, it seems, when there's no pressure on them. It's 5 straight wins. They've even been able to beat pretty good teams as well. New Jersey, a weaker team, Buffalo and Chicago, weaker teams that they won during this beat during this 5-game winning streak. But they also beat Edmonton, and they beat Winnipeg 3-2 on the road over the weekend, a Winnipeg team that is, a playoff-bound team. So they're playing well. Minnesota, I don't trust them as chalk. I don't trust them off the loss that they suffered against Vegas, which might have been a playoff crippling loss for them. Yeah, give me Ottawa. We're going to keep riding the Sens. I was on Ottawa against Winnipeg over the weekend. I also took Ottawa, against Buffalo last week. We've had Ottawa a couple of times during this streak, and I think it's a decent price to back them once again here in this game. And it is also worth noting here between these two teams that Ottawa did beat Minnesota in Ottawa earlier this season back in November when these two teams played. What do you think here in this one, Matt? Sens Wild.
Yeah, this was going to be probably a pass for me, but I may sprinkle a little on Ottawa. I think the Hartman suspension is going to be a big factor in this game. I think Minnesota felt they were in the mix, and then that OT losing that point, the goalie pull against Vegas, I think that really kind of, to me, was the nail in the coffin. I hope if Terry's in the chat, he doesn't take it personally. I just think, given how, St. Louis, I think, is still, sort of alive, but I think for Minnesota, it's going to be tough to get in at this point. So with Hartman out for 3 games, I could see them going on a skid, kind of mailing it in, starting to book golf reservations, things like that. So, yeah, I might throw a little just on the price, given the price on Ottawa. I was kind of looking if I like team total over, but it's like minus 155 over 2.5. I think it can get there. So there's a chance I'll split those two up, put a little on team total over 2.5. Then on the off chance, you get a 3-3 overtime and Minnesota finds a way to win. Hopefully they don't pull their goalie again. Or if they do, they get the dub. But then you're safe there and you kind of split up the bet. So I might end up splitting it, even though there's a little juice on that. But yeah, I think Minnesota's going to struggle without Hartman.
Yeah, and like I said, I like the way Ottawa's going. This is what Ottawa does. The pressure's off and they start winning, and I think you could see that. Now, I did notice what one of our people in the chat is saying about the Senators 0-6 last 6 in Minnesota. This is a different situation, though. This is Ottawa in a zone right now. Minnesota, I really do worry about the loss to Vegas, because you look at them not only losing that game, but they had 1 point in the bank already, and the point gets taken away from them because of the empty net goal allowed to Vegas. So it puts them even further behind the 8 ball. And like I said, I'm going to actually do exact same bets I did with Ottawa against Winnipeg on Saturday. And Matt mentioned it: money line and team total over split with Ottawa, because that's what I did with them against Winnipeg, over 2.5 and the money line. So over 2.5 is around that minus 145 price. And by the way, if you're looking at props, you could do a point parlay tonight. Brady Tkachuk, Drake Batherson for Ottawa, Matt Boldy, Kirill Kaprizov for Minnesota. So much of the offense for these two teams have come from those 4 players. Tkachuk and Batherson lately for Ottawa, and Boldy and Kaprizov for the Wild. So put those 4 players in a point parlay, same game point parlay. I think you got a decent chance there to cash that here in this Ottawa-Minnesota game. All right, next up, Anaheim-Calgary. We've got the Calgary Flames minus 230, home favorites, 6 being the total in this game. Don't we have to bet Anaheim here? Don't we have to bet the Anaheim Ducks here? This is what Calgary does. Big home favorites and shit the bed. I mean, we have seen this over and over again from the Calgary Flames. This is honestly what they do. They've lost to San Jose in these big home favorite spots. You go on down the list. This is not the price range that Calgary is usually at their best. Let's put it that way. Calgary is home dogs. And look, they were home dogs against LA. Should have known. They would probably play well in that game. Home dogs against Vegas. They beat the Golden Knights. But when they are a home favorite in this kind of price range, north of 200, I'm telling you what, it's been bad news far too often for Calgary Flames backers. So I know Anaheim's ass right now. Okay, absolutely hard to back them. I get it. 1-9 in their last, well, actually 1-11 now in their last 12 games. The only win was against Chicago, at home. But I saw something from them in that Vancouver game. They're down 2-0 going into the third. It looked like, another loss. You could easily just mail it in the third period. You're not going to win this hockey game. They didn't do that. They came out in the third period. I saw energy. I saw a little fire. I saw a little passion, a little want to, a little will, a little, we're sick of this shit, losing. over and over again. And sure enough, they get 2 goals in the third. They tie it up with Vancouver Sunday afternoon by a 2-2. And then they go on and they end up losing 3-2. But I'm telling you what, we saw a little effort from them in that spot against the Vancouver Canucks. You know, they didn't go quietly into the night. That's what you want to see out of teams that are going nowhere this late in the season. You want to see a little pushback. You want to see a little fight from the Anaheim Ducks. And, you know, if they show that fight tonight, we've seen enough schizophrenia from Calgary against these lesser lights at the Saddle Dome this year where they could get tripped up in this game. Now, I stress this to everybody. Small bet. Don't go nuts on this, but I'm on Anaheim here, plus 190. And look, Anaheim's as healthy as they've been, you know, in quite some time as well, from a forward standpoint. You know, they've had a lot of injuries to deal with. They've had Terry in and out. They've had Zegras in and out. McTavish was banged up for a bit. Now they got everyone healthy up front, which is good news for them. It's about as good as they've looked in the forward group for quite some time. It looks like as far as goaltending goes for this game, unfortunately we're going to see Gibson, and I know that we're taking Anaheim here, this Anaheim Flyer at plus 190. No, it's not Gibson. It's Dostal. Okay, I expected Gibson. I'm seeing Dostal confirmed for the Anaheim Ducks, which is the goalie I want here in this game. It's not Gibson. At least that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing Dostal on RotoWire right now, confirmed in net. We'll have to see what the other sites are saying right now. But yeah, I'm seeing Dostal right now for Anaheim. Yeah, Dostal's confirmed. Dostal and Markstrom going to be the goalies here tonight in these 2 games. So yeah, it's Lucas Dostal, which makes me feel better about Anaheim here, plus 190. He's the one goalie that's putting up some resistance. It sure as fuck isn't John Gibson right now for the Anaheim Ducks. So yeah, I'm going to go with a little Anaheim plus 190. And again, like with the Ottawa game, I'll probably split with the team total on Anaheim, which is a nice cheap over 2.5 at it looks like plus or at minus 115, minus 120 on that Anaheim team total over. So yeah, Lucas Dostal, give me Anaheim here, plus 190. Quack, quack. You're not going to lose every game, I think, the rest of the way. You're going to lose the majority of them, but I think tonight you're going to have a chance here. I like the pushback we saw in the third period against Vancouver. Could have sloughed off and said, not our night, down 2-0 to Vancouver. And they didn't, on a back-to-back as well, because they got routed in Edmonton the day before, and they didn't do that. They showed up in the third. They made a game of it. So Anaheim plus 190. I might do a little smaller over bifecta here because I still think Calgary's an over team. They're capable of scoring. Their defense is still wobbly without Tanev and Hanifin on the back end. LA's just not, good enough and consistent enough offensively the other night to take advantage of it. So yeah, the over bifecta I might sprinkle on here as well. I still think Calgary's more of an over team with these absences on the blue line since the trade deadline. What do you think here, Matt? Anaheim, Calgary.
Yeah, I have 4 plays written down, and you kind of took all 4 of them, or at least if you're taking Ducks team total as like a split. I'm going to be on Ducks team total and money line split up, and then I'm on the over bifecta. I think, I've mentioned it before on the show, but 2 teams that are way at the bottom. I like these games against each other. They know, the Ducks guys that have been hurt all year. Zegras hasn't had a great year. He's been in and out. These are the types of games you want to get some points. You want to get some momentum in the next year, pad your stats a little bit. Maybe there's some incentive bonuses on the line, things like that. So I like there to be goals in this game. I also, again, I think I'm taking a shot with the Ducks. And as you mentioned, it's, don't be putting your whole bankroll on the Ducks, given how they've played, all season. But I do think that over 2.5, I think they're healthy up front, and that's really a positive thing for a Calgary team that's really deflated on D. Markstrom can play well, but I think these games are hard to get up for a goalie, especially a proven veteran like him. He's not like battling for a contract or to make the NHL next year or anything like that. So these types of games, it's very easy to take a night off. So I expect a lot of goals here, hopefully more for the Ducks than Calgary, but yeah, I'll be on all 4 of those. And then I've got a couple props here, but I'll save those for later.
Sounds like bargain bin special material coming from Matt Robinson there with that tease for props that he likes here for this Anaheim Calgary game. For me, I would say, Huberdeau, Backlund, and Coleman. We got a bit of a new look top line. Coleman's definitely got great value with Backlund and Huberdeau. Pospisil and Kuzmenko flanking Kadri. There's probably some value there for Calgary. And I'll throw one out from the blue line right now for Calgary. Mackenzie Weegar, believe it or not. 2 goals, 4 points in the last 3 games for him. So Mackenzie Weegar, if you want to sprinkle on the Calgary defenseman who's suddenly starting to find the back of the net and get the points. And remember, he has taken a lot more ice time with the departures of Tanev and Hanifin. And Mackenzie Weegar starting to make the most of it for Calgary. Look, for Anaheim, as Alan says in the chat, we're talking about a team that scored more than 2 goals just one single time in the last 15 games. So we got to be careful with Anaheim props. But, I think I would – Toronto is due, McTavish and Killorn. Those are the 3 guys I'm really focusing on for Anaheim. Killorn, McTavish, and Vetrano, Frank the Tank for Anaheim. As far as goal props here going into this game for the Anaheim Ducks. All right, the final game of this Tuesday card, and it is a pretty good hockey game to wrap up the night. The Vancouver Canucks make the trip to Sin City, Nevada to take on the Vegas Golden Knights. We've got Vegas minus 130 home favorites in this game, 5.5 the total in this matchup. You can start to see that the Vegas Golden Knights are rounding into playoff form, starting to get on a bit of a roll, playing better hockey. 5-1 in their last 6 games for the Vegas Golden Knights. Wins at home against Seattle and Columbus. Not exactly the best competition, but then they go on that 4-game road trip at St. Louis. They win in overtime 2-1, hard fought against a Blues team playing with desperation to make the playoffs. Then they lose a heartbreaker against Nashville the next night, where they had that 4-0 lead during our betcast, and Nashville came all the way back and ended up winning 5-4 in overtime. But they since bounced back. Vegas with a 4-1 win against the Jets in Winnipeg, and then that 2-1 overtime win in Minnesota on Saturday afternoon, where, of course, the Minnesota Wild pulled the goalie in overtime, and it all went awry for the Minnesota Wild in that game. We'll see how they fare here in this matchup tonight against Vancouver. But there's a bit of a tricky spot for Vegas. First home game after that 4-game road trip, Malinsky special, which says, you don't really want to be rushing to bet Vegas in this spot. Now, Vancouver's off a 3-2 win against Anaheim. We know the last time they went on the road here, and they took care of business and had a very good road trip. And one of those games was a win here at T-Mobile Arena against Vegas by a score of 3-1. And now they catch Vegas off this 4-game road trip. And the thing about the 4 games, too, for Vegas, 3 of them went to overtime. So they had to exert a lot of energy, exert a lot of emotion, intensity when you're talking about 3 of the 4 games on the road trip going to overtime. And, of course, you also had the game with Winnipeg, which, even though it was 4-1, it didn't go to overtime. It was a pretty physical hockey game they played against the Jets. I think Vegas is vulnerable, but particularly vulnerable tonight in the first period. I think Vancouver could pounce on them in the first period. I don't know if I trust Vancouver for the game, but I think in the first period, Vancouver might have the advantage here. I like Vancouver first period, money line here. I like that angle. This is an angle I used with success last week involving the Ottawa Senators when Buffalo was coming home off a road trip, and Ottawa jumped. And I don't expect 6-0 or 5-0 Vancouver, obviously, in the first period, like Ottawa jumped on Buffalo last week. But I do think Vancouver here in the first period, with Vegas coming off the road, is probably a nice situational bet here to get in, maybe get the lead early. I think Vegas might get stronger as the game goes on. And to be honest with you, I do like Vegas's current form a little bit better right now than Vancouver. But I think I like Vancouver in the first period. I think I'm going to stop there, though. I don't think I'm going to take them full game. I think just first period here for Vancouver to maybe get the jump on Vegas. I also like the draw in this game. You've heard me not mention a lot of draws. This is not one of those cards where I like a ton of draws, but I do like the draw in this game. With Vancouver and Vegas, I think there's a decent chance we could see overtime or a shootout. So it's Vancouver first period money line, and the draw for me is how I'm approaching this game with the Canucks and the Golden Knights. Worth noting, Vegas has gone to OT 3 of the last 4 games. So I think there's a decent chance we see overtime here. Yes, I was going to get there. The chat has beaten me to it. Dakota Joshua he's ascending, man. He's come back. He's been great. He had 2 goals against Anaheim. He had 1 goal against Chicago before his absence. Then he had 2 goals against Anaheim over the weekend. He's ascended to the second line with JT Miller and Connor Garland. That whole line was terrific. That whole line, I think, might have been their best line on Sunday against Anaheim. Even though Besser did get a power play goal, he plays with Pettersson and Höglander. I thought Garland, Miller, and Joshua showed instant chemistry as a line for the Vancouver Canucks. So Garland's worth a look. Joshua's worth a look, especially he's scoring, and now he's getting second line top 6 minutes for the Vancouver Canucks as well. So definitely some good props there on the Vancouver side. For Vegas, close shave Barbashev, I think, is worth a look. He's been picking it up lately. For them, Dorofeev, I've talked about him as well. Amadio on the second line, he's worth a shot with Stevenson and Cotter. Shea Theodore assist prop has been good for a very, very long time now. So, yeah, there's some decent props, too, to look at on the Golden Knights side in this great Western Conference matchup in the late night hours. But not the late night hours for Matt. It'll be 7 p.m., of course, out there on the West Coast. Matty, what do you think here? Vancouver, Vegas?
Yeah, I actually am on Vancouver for the full game here. I think Vegas has played better as of late, but it's still, they're still up and down to me, and I know Vancouver's kind of in that hunt with Dallas for the top spot in the West. I know Colorado is definitely not dead from that sort of battle. So, but I know Vancouver would love that, top seed in the West, home ice through the playoffs, like Dallas or Colorado would as well. But yeah, I don't know. I just think Vancouver gets it done here. I also pregame them on over 5.5. I think these are 2 capable teams of scoring some goals. I looked at team total overs. Vancouver's, it's like minus 135. Vegas is like plus 135, obviously for over 3.5 as opposed to over 2.5. I think I'm going to stay off that. I think I'm just going to take the over 5.5 and then put the same size play on Vancouver money line.
I wish you luck with that over, but I'm not joining you on it. I understand it's 5.5. I get it. I mean, this Vancouver team's 11-1 to the under in their last 12 games. And ever since that first road trip started in Anaheim, LA, and Vegas, and they swept that road trip, and Rick Tocchet preached team defense, we got to get back to our structure, they've been an under machine. I mean, 11 of the last 12 under for the Vancouver Canucks. So, and the last time they played in Vegas, it was 3-1 Vancouver. So I wish you well, but I can't join down. In fact, I'd lean under, quite honestly. But again, when I lean, that's good news for you. There you go. I just gave everyone the I lean under in this game statement, which means probably going over. But although that hasn't been nearly as, a lock or nearly as, right, nearly as it's not cashing in quite like it once did, where I like an under, that means it's got to go over the total. So we'll see. But I understand. But Matt's got that system with the 5.5. So he loves the 5.5 overs. So we'll wish him all the best with that. For me, it's just Vancouver first period money line and the draw here in this game. All right, good stuff. That is the Thursday NHL card. Great stuff. Appreciate everyone in the chat. 400 people watching live right now. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. A reminder, we posted it earlier in the show. We'll post it one more time. There are the dates of our Ice Guys live betcasts here in the month of April. 2 more to go in the regular season and 3 betcasts coming up in the Stanley Cup playoffs here in the month of April. Free betcast Tuesday, April 9th, regular season. Patreon exclusive betcast Tuesday, April 16th, again, regular season. And then 3 in the playoffs, Monday, April 22nd, free. Thursday, April 25th, Patreon exclusive, and Tuesday, April 30th, Patreon exclusive. So again, for the 3 Patreon betcasts, the only way you'll be able to watch them and the only way you'll be able to join us on the stream for those 3 betcasts, the Patreon exclusive betcasts, April 16, 25, and 30, is to do this. And that's sign up at patreon.com/iceguys, just $10 per month to be part of those Patreon exclusive live betcasts, to gain the access to them, and to also get our sides, totals, and player props each and every day posted on the page. Goalie charts, totals charts, more bonus content on the way as well. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 US per month. And again, your subscription fee goes a long way to keeping the show going in the long run. So make sure you sign up and subscribe. 3 Patreon exclusive live betcasts here in the month of April, 2 of them in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So again, make sure you sign up. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. And again, make sure you check out the Ice Guys store. The Ice Guys store is offering a discount offering right now on the at the store, 20% off all orders starting today through to Saturday, April the 6th. So now through Saturday, 20% off all orders at the Ice Guys store. So get your gear and your merch over at iceguys.myspreadshop.com. All right, bargain bin special of the night and best bets coming up in just a moment, right after we hear from our great sponsors, our good friends at Boston Hemp Inc. All right, Boston Hemp Inc. Make sure you check them out. And again, get 20% off all orders on the website using the promo code IceGuys at bostonhempinc.com. All right, it is time for Bargain Bin Special of the night. I think Matt hinted at the fact that he's going to Cowtown, Canadian Cowtown, Calgary, Alberta, Anaheim Ducks, Calgary Flames for the Bargain Bin Special. What do you like?
Yeah, so again, I like a lot of goals in this game. I think both teams are out of it. With that being said, he was on a bit of a slump. He scored last game. So give me Blake Coleman over 1.5 points plus 325. He's on their power play. He's on their penalty kill. He's playing with the top line. So why not? Dallas boy Blake Coleman over 1.5 points. That's my bargain bin tonight.
All right, Blake Coleman, Calgary Flames over 1.5 points plus 325. A bargain bin special of the night for this Tuesday. For Matt Robinson. All right, my bargain bin special of the night. Lots of good choices tonight on this slate, but I think I've kind of talked myself into one here as far as this Vancouver-Vegas game is concerned. Plus 430, Dakota Joshua, Vancouver Canucks. Dakota Joshua, Vancouver Canucks. Plus 430, 2 goals against Anaheim. Second line duty now because Rick Tocchet not only loves the way he's playing, but trusts him now in all situations. We're seeing the offense start to get going for him. And again, a price like that at plus 430, I think is well worth a shot here tonight with him. So there you go. Dakota Joshua, Vancouver Canucks, plus 430. What a goal he scored, by the way, against Anaheim. That goal was something else on Sunday afternoon. So Dakota Joshua, Vancouver Canucks, plus 430 for my bargain bin special of the night. All right, best bets to wrap up this Tuesday edition of the show. Matt, what do you like here for your best bet?
Yeah, for my best bet, it's going to be one of the early games. I mentioned I got in at over 5.5. I'm seeing plus money at over 6. But give me Florida, Montreal over 5.5. I think Florida, I'm on the team total. I think they come out and score, but Montreal at home, I think they can chip in as well. Hopefully we get a 4-2, 5-2 type game. And Florida, Montreal over 5.5.
All right, Florida, Montreal. There you go, over 5.5 for Matt Robinson and his best bet. Shop around. You can still get 5.5 at minus 124 at FanDuel right now. So make sure you shop around. You'll be able to get that price with it. Panthers, Habs, over 5.5 for Matt Robinson with his best bet. My best bet, we're going for an underdog tonight. I like the Ottawa Senators, and I like the way they're playing. Plus 125 against the Minnesota Wild. That had the feel of a death in the family, that type of loss for the Minnesota Wild. In the crowd, you could sense it. In the team, you could sense it. Ottawa's rolling, 5 straight wins, playing well. I think it's a very vulnerable favorite tonight, Minnesota, after the very tough, heartbreaking loss against Vegas the other night. Ottawa Senators for me, plus 125 for my best bet here for this Tuesday NHL card. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it very much. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Matt Robinson, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will be back with you tomorrow on Wednesday for another edition of the Ice Guys.